Hi, everybody, it's Kate. Can you believe that our Leading People journey together is almost over? It has gone by so fast. I wanted to start by saying thank you for all the work that you've put into this program, for showing up to each session as your authentic self, for sharing your experiences to enrich our discussions, for being open to trying new things, and for learning with us at the People side. On behalf of myself and the other program guides, we say thank you. So today we're going to talk about courageous conversations. And you might be wondering, what the heck is a courageous conversation? And it's pretty simple. It's a conversation where you as a leader need to have courage. It's a conversation where you may have to share a difficult message with someone, which frankly can be really tough. One of my most memorable courageous conversations that had a really positive outcome was when I worked at Boeing. I led a team of people with varying levels of experience. Many had spent most of their careers in Boeing. This conversation was with someone that I'm going to call John for our example. John is a white male in his late 50s. John had worked at Boeing his entire career, which was a 35 plus year career, and John was in a people leadership position on my team. And John had previously been in people leadership positions for 10 to 15 years of his career. So I observed that John was not meeting the expectations of some of his responsibilities, and this puzzled me given his level of experience. I did not love that I needed to have a courageous conversation with John about his performance level. He had so much more experience with me, and it just felt silly that I would be talking to someone who was more experienced than me about their performance. However, I knew as a leader that was my job. So I sat down and got my SBI Plus examples ready to share with John. Okay, let me share that again. Yes, I sat down and got my SBI Plus examples ready to share with John. I pre-wrote out my examples of what I wanted to say to him so that I could be really articulate in what I had observed and what impact that had to the team. When I showed up to the conversation with John, I showed up with curiosity and I used coaching questions to try to understand from John's perspective what was going on. And my mind was blown with what John shared with me because I had made assumptions about John and they were all wrong. I thought because John was more experienced than me, had a longer career than me, and had led people before, that he was good to go to do his job. John shared with me that he felt that he'd been thrown into a management role 15 years ago with no training, and at times he felt ill equipped to do his job. So from that point forward, John and I talked about what could we do to make sure that he had the skills to do his job. I had assumed that John had the skill and the will, and what I found out was that he totally had the will, but he lacked the skills. So we made a plan on how to provide him the tools that he needed and also how I could support him as a leader. John also shared with me that because I had created a place of safety for him and other team members, I'd been vulnerable about my own experiences, my own shortcomings, that he really felt that he could share with me and be open about where he was at. Again, I'll say that having this conversation with John was nerve-wracking. I was nervous to have it, but because I used all of the tools in my leadership tool belt, it went better than I could have ever expected. So you have all been learning some of the tools that you need to have these courageous conversations. You've been learning about trust and creating an environment of psychological safety. You've learned about DISC and your style and how you prefer to communicate, but also about thinking about other people's styles and how they would want to be communicated with. You've learned how to provide feedback with SBI Plus. You've learned about skill and will and coaching questions. These are all foundational to having productive, courageous conversations. And I have to say that these courageous conversations that you have as a leader can truly make a difference to the people you work with and lead, and it can often be pivotal to someone's career. Okay, so as we near the end of this program, I also just want to say something really courageous to all of you. It's important for all of us to hold ourselves accountable for continuous learning. You're at the end of the program, you've got one more workshop to go, but the learning doesn't stop with each of these sessions. It's a process, and it's up to you to apply the skills that you've been learning and practice them and continue to grow as a leader.